What's going on, man? We are back here with another episode on the Perfectly Unfinished podcast, episode 4.
Ooh,
Actually, yeah.
Okay, we
It's quick.
rolling, we
Yeah,
rolling.
yeah. So,
Okay.
we're glad you tuned in. Of course, I'm your host, Jamar Clark.
And I'm your co-host, Shireen Clark.
Yeah, in today's topic, we're going to talk about going through the storm. And this can mean whatever you're going through, it could be, depression, it could be testing for a job or even school,
Right.
Going through that storm. So as someone who has experience on this world, you don't have to get too personal, but, I would say, what are some storms that, you've overcame?
Wow, a lot.
Mhm.
But I would say, maybe the biggest one or the one that was, was financial.
Mhm.
Financial. When it was something else. As you can see, I'm trying to put the words together.
Right, yeah. It's tough.
Because that one is tough.
Mhm.
When you don't have enough money to pay your bills, take care of your kids. It's also in my book, Don't Count Yourself Out, that I wrote. And I talk a little bit about the financial issues. Raising 2 children by myself with, little help. And at that time, I had my car payments coming out of my check.
Right.
And so I was bringing home like $624 every 2 weeks. I believe we got paid every 2 weeks. And once everything came out, taxes, insurance, a car note.
Jeez.
Yeah, everything. So I was left with like $624. And I never forget it because it when I look back and I'm like, wow, how in the world
Got through that storm.
did I do?
Got through that storm.
But God,
Yeah.
God got me out of that one.
It's amazing.
Literally, like Yolanda Adams sang, while riding through the storm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was with me while riding through that storm, not having enough. I would say enough because, I was making decent money, but because everything was coming out and then I was the only one paying everything.
Right.
So, it became a struggle. But when I tell you God stepped in, God stepped in. Yes, he did.
In the storm.
In the storm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure, we kind of, spoke about your book the last episode, but for me, I'm gonna go ahead and, promote it a little bit too for you. Anyone who has been in a similar situation or is going through a similar situation, go buy the book. Go buy the book. We'll even put the link under this video. We forgot to put it under the other video, but we'll put it under this video. Go buy the book, man. It's Don't Count Yourself Out is more than just inspiration. It's more than just motivation. So
Right. Yeah.
definitely an opportunity for you to learn something. And again, take advice from someone who been in a situation that you may be going through.
It's true.
Yeah.
There's some real live, scenarios in there or different things, that I witnessed that God can do. So that's why I said, if it wasn't for God, it might be a cliche that people feel, but if it wasn't for God, I don't know where I would be today.
Seriously,
literally.
I believe
I would say this because, it's in the book, but and while I was writing it, I'm like, people probably ain't gonna believe that I'm telling the truth, but these are, this is a true testament, true testimonies, of what God did. And so I had a black minivan, and this is one of the things. I'll just say one of the things. I had a black minivan at the time, and I also had a Dodge Stratus at the time. And so, those are two car notes and insurance at the same time. And, my then husband, he just, was like, hey, I don't want it no more. You take care of it. And, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. But so, the company, they called me. And I said, listen, I cannot afford it. So, come and get it. Do what you got to do. And the lady was like, well, you're like at least 3 months behind. And I'm like, listen, lady, I just told you, I can't afford it.
Come get the van.
So come and get it.
Yeah.
And so she was like, well, yeah, we'll do that, whatever. And so I'm like, okay, not a problem. So she said, well, how much can you pay? And I said, well, I can't give you anything today. So, she said, well, when can you, let's schedule, a time. And I looked at I can't look. I looked at the phone. I looked at the lady. I'm like, listen, like, I don't have it.
Right.
I cannot give you nothing that I don't have. So she says, well, I'm going to talk to my supervisor, see what we going to do. And, we'll come and pick it up and da-da-da-da-da. I said, yeah, please. I'm like, I'm telling you, come get it. So I literally clinked the van out, put it in front of where we lived. And I said, they can come and get it. I took everything out. And I'm like, you know what? It's ready.
Right.
Come and get it. So 2 weeks went by. Matter of fact, it might have been 3 weeks went by. And the lady called me and she said, she said, we can't take your van. And I said, wait, I'm like, lady, hold up. What do you mean you can't take it? I'm like, because I can't afford it. I cannot pay for it no more. And so she says, well, we'll work something out. She said, work something out. She said, how much can you pay? And I said, well, I can't pay it in a day. Right. So she said, well, what can you pay? When can you pay? So I think I may have paid like $100 or something. She said, this is what we're going to do. She said, we're going to put what you owe on the back end. She said, we're going to start you off fresh. And, I'm still telling the lady, well, I don't know, if this is going to work, if I can afford it,
right.
Stuff like that. And so she said, well, listen, she said, that's your van. We can't take it. So I knew right then that God was working, because who does that?
Yeah.
Who does that? You're behind 3 months in a car payment,
right?
And they're gonna tell you they can't come and take your vehicle, and like I said, I left it out there for them to come and take. I didn't hide it or nothing, because I'm like, come and get it. And listen, they never came and got it. So what I did was, a couple from my church, I put a for sale sign. I'm like, I need to sell it, do something. And so a couple was like, hey, we want the car. We already have a van. I didn't want to give away. I didn't want to do my car. I wanted the van, because it was a good car.
Right.
But, it worked out, and my credit was still good from that. And I was saved, and so I'm like, wow, like God, he really worked it out.
I'm saying.
He really worked that out. I'm telling you. True story.
Yeah, that's something.
No lies.
That's something. Man, 2 cars and the whole situation. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember the van, the car. I don't know if you remember that, but so that's what, what was going on. Yeah, crazy, right?
Talk about a storm.
Whew. Yeah, that was a whirlwind, because there was more going on with that.
Right.
So it was a whirlwind.
Right.
But yeah, God,
yeah,
got me through it.
Going through anything financial couldn't really, stress anyone out, and then, not having, I guess help as a parent, is even a whole nother story.
Yeah, it's a whole nother story.
Yeah, God is moving. Well, he has moved.
Yeah,
since that storm. So that's, like I said, that's a storm. I can only share my experience, but my storm could never compare to anything like that right now.
Right.
But yeah, we're glad God brought us through.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you think about storms that we go through, personal storms that we go through, there's so many mixed emotions. There's so many things that go, in your mind. That, some people, they want to commit suicide because they don't know what to do, because I'm telling you, like, those things make you want to pull your hair out. You cannot sleep at night. You stay up because you're trying to figure out how do I get through this?
Right. How to get out the situation.
What do I do? When you have children and you're like, wow, I have to take care of how many kids you have, and then yourself. So, you're thinking like, how I'm going to do this? Where's this going to come from? But yeah, when my faith kicked in, I had to use my faith and say, okay, it's going to get better. I kept going to church, and the ministers that would come to preach, they would, encourage my spirits by the words, and I was able to hang on in there. Because you feel like giving up, not so much always on life, but you just feel like giving up. Yeah. Not doing nothing.
Right. It ain't necessarily killing yourself,
right.
But it's just like,
walk away. I'm done. I don't want to be bothered. So all of that stuff, comes into play. because you don't know what to do.
Right.
You don't know what to do. You don't know where, the money is coming from. And I remember working 3 jobs, 3 jobs, full-time, 1 full-time and 2 part-times.
Get into it.
I remember, so.
Get into that chicken. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, like I said, for me, I don't know. I feel like one of the craziest things was being in debt with the IRS owing $3,000 because, like I said, I don't know what happened. I don't think I messed something up on my end when filling out my applications because I fill them out all the same way. But yeah, Home Depot, something happened with my pay stubs. They wasn't taking out federal. Yeah, right. Federal. IRS. Yeah, federal taxes. So by the end of the year, I went to go get my taxes done.
Wow.
And they were saying, yeah, you owe $3,000 something odd change or dollars in taxes. And I was like, wait a minute, whoa, how?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And then, IRS, people always get in a cringe and, get afraid. And speaking of Owen, because I've made cash with my business, I've owed them as well. And so I actually called them, and I actually thought that they took enough of the state tax that I got.
Right.
And so they sent me a letter saying, hey, if we don't get this money today, or immediately, should I say, we're gonna, I forgot what is it called. They'll come after you, with your, take it out of your account. I forgot the word that they use. And so the crazy thing is, I'm like, oh, shoot. So I called them because I'm like, I can't afford them just zapping money out my account or freezing nothing. So I called them and, I talked to the lady and I said, well, I don't have this big lump sum today immediately. So she says, okay, not a problem. So, she said, well, what can you do? And she said, we can actually do payment plans. And I said, you know what, let's do that. Because I already got enough, stuff that I'm paying out. And I'll also say this, that, when you have loans and credit card debt and you pay the minimum, you really never
you can't
pay it off.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that now I'm dealing with now is all the stuff, because listen, I'll admit it, in my personal storm, and like I said, financially was the biggest one. I lived off of those plastic cards,
credit card,
and personal loans, and whatever, to try to make ends meet and do what I had to do. And so now, it's like, oh, I got to pay this stuff off, so now it's just like everything is like compiled because, I was able to keep them off of me by paying the minimum, but the minimum gets you nowhere.
Get you stuck.
Nowhere. Get you stuck.
They know what they be doing.
Yeah, it gets you stuck. So, that's where, I called them and I said, hey, listen, because again, like I said, I don't need them to freeze my accounts.
Right.
I don't need them, just to take, money, and I know I may not have money at that time or in that account. So I called them, and she made a payment arrangement and she's like, hey, and she asked me, how much can you pay each month? And she worked it out. She said, okay, if you pay this, you'll be done by this time. And I said, okay. I said, let's do that.
Right.
Let's do that. So, that worked out really good. Again, God is amazing.
Yeah.
He's amazing,
times.
Because it didn't have to work that way. She could have said, no, you got to pay this today.
Yeah.
So, because IRS, you can't play with them.
No.
Can't play with them. You can, you can run for so long, but, you can hide, you can run, but they're going to get you.
They're going to get their money. Yeah, it's the same thing for me. It was just like, yeah, just buckle down and pay it,
Right.
Pay it every, I think they were, was there a ticket out of my check? I forgot. No, I think I had to, I had set up a payment plan.
Right. Yeah.
And I had did it over the line. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I just, did it, chipped it away. I think it took me a couple months. It didn't even take me a year.
Okay.
But yeah, they're going to get their money.
They're going to get their money one way or the other, whether you like it or not. They're coming after you.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what, let me call them because, no. I called them and the lady, she was very nice and we set something up and we're good.
Yeah.
And so she just let me know, listen, just make this payment, and it's not a hard payment.
No. So,
I said, and I was told by one, when I was going through, that financial situation, one of the creditors, they said, listen, it was like, don't ignore don't ignore, don't not answer the calls, he said, because that's what makes it worse.
Right, yeah.
So a tip, here's a tip.
Shoot.
If you know you are getting behind or you are behind, and sometimes it is scary, when you don't answer the call. And sometimes it's not like you don't want to answer. Sometimes you're just so bogged down, you don't feel like being bothered.
Yeah, you don't feel like being bothered.
You don't feel like being bothered. Like, I don't feel like talking to these people.
Next time.
I know they want the money. I don't feel like talking to them.
Yeah.
So, but one thing they told me, one debt collector, he had said to me, he said, don't ignore it. He was like, because a lot of times we can help you.
Yeah.
And so I took that advice. And, anytime I, was in a crunch, or if I got behind, I would call him and say, hey, listen, I can't make the payment. I don't have the means right now. What programs do you have? How can you help me? I want to pay this bill, but how can you help me? Because I'm in a tight spot.
Right.
And, most of the time they had a program or they had a way that, they could help.
Right. Some type of system.
Right. And that's what I did. And that's what helped me all these years. That's what helped me, and so I adopted that advice that he gave me, and I use it. Listen, use a situation, to say, hey, I'm going through this, going through that. How can you help me? Because I want to take care of this. I don't want this to linger, but it's nothing I can do right now. We don't make money off of trees.
We don't. Shoot.
We don't.
Yeah,
so.
That's Yeah, it's a testament though, like you said, what God can do, stand in those storms and kind of just going through it, especially the financial ones, because those seem like they hurt and they last the longest.
Right.
But like you said, just we gonna continue to trust in God, through the financial storms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even now, when you look at everything, people are going through financially, still, because everything is going up.
Yeah.
Rent is ridiculous. Mortgage is crazy.
Yep.
And everywhere you look. I was in the store yesterday, and one of the I forgot the name of the drink, but one of the drinks that I like, it's like it comes in a little fat glass, and it has like grapefruit juice and different things, and it's $8.29, and I was like, are you kidding me?
One serving?
Yeah, that's it. They're small, they're about maybe that big. They're, a little fat glass bottle. And it went up to $8 something. And I believe they were like maybe $4 or $5.
Jeez.
It's now $8. And I said, this is ridiculous.
It's crazy.
For something to drink.
It's crazy.
$8 for this little thing. So, and in a minute, I don't know what people are going to do. But yeah, finances is a beast.
Yeah, well,
it's a beast.
Growing,
when you don't have it.
Yeah, I was about to say growing your own fruit and growing your own things. I mean, you still do have to buy the seeds and whatnot,
right.
But that is the better option.
Exactly. Exactly.
Trying to save a little piece of change.
Right. You gotta try to cut it somewhere, and it's like, where do you cut when it's already short?
Right.
So it's crazy, But we go through these personal storms. We go through. Like this, because this is life, and we all go through it. It's not just me, but a lot of people go through the same thing. And it all depends, how it happens. Someone could, pass away who was the breadwinner, or who did most of the stuff, and now they're not here. So that's another reason why people go through, different things or financial situation,
right?
When everything is going good and then it's not anymore. And it's like, what do I do?
Just like that.
Just like that. Things happen just like that. And even not just storms of circumstances, but real storms,
right.
Natural storms that we all go through. And sometimes we go through those at the same time.
Yep.
Do you remember Superstorm Sandy?
Yeah, that was crazy. We was just chilling in the crib, and we all kind of knew it was coming, but we didn't know it was going to be like that. I think y'all had bought candles, batteries. Our lights had went out way before the storm even hit.
Yeah, we didn't know what was going on.
So it was like, well, I guess this is going to be a big storm. The city could have did it, or the wind or something could have knocked it out. But still, it was. That happened way before the storm even hit, and the storm was kind of an overnight thing, but it kind of kept us up for majority of the night, and with the trees falling, the wind hitting the windows and whatnot. So Hurricane Sandy, and we got knocked out school for 2 weeks.
Actually 3.
3 weeks, and that was during I think October because they tried to cancel Halloween.
Well, no, I could be wrong. It could have been 2 weeks, but I know we were out of electricity for 3 weeks.
Okay.
It definitely was 3 weeks.
Well, yeah, I get in school.
Yeah, it was
crazy.
funny because at that time I was in Union County.
Yeah.
And I saw I was on the internet and I read about the storm, and they said they used the word monstrous storm, and I actually saw it on the news, and the weatherman, he was just like the way he was describing the storm and the way that he was talking, I saw it in his face, and he looked like he was a little afraid, because they know, what's coming.
Yeah.
Sometimes, because sometimes, it's not always accurate, but the way he was saying it, and I told the family, I said, listen, I'm like, this sound like this gonna be a really, really bad storm. So I think we better prepare for this one, because, the way that they're saying it and the way that man looked, I'm like, like something is really, really coming for us, and I think we better be ready.
Sandy was crazy.
And and I remember that too, where I think it was about maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and our power went out.
Yeah.
Literally. And if I'm not mistaken, I think a tree fell at the end of the block. One end of the block, the tree fell, and we were trying to figure out, okay, the storm has not started yet. Right. The winds wasn't heavy, and we're like, why is our lights going out? Yeah. And so when it happened, my 2 sisters, they went out to the store, and they said, let's get more batteries and more candles, because after a while they looked at me and was like, yeah, I think we better,
it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be pretty bad.
I think we better prepare, like seriously prepare for this one, and we still don't understand why our lights went out.
It was so early. It was so early.
It was baffling, but yeah, I mean, the tree fell, the lights went out, they went to the store. By the time they came back, another tree had fell, I believe at the other end. I'm not sure if that happened after they got back home, because the neighbors, they were trying to leave. They was about to leave.
They couldn't.
And they couldn't.
Nope.
They were going to go to a hotel, but so we were literally stuck on our street way before the storm started. And so we don't know what was going on. We was like, is it undercurrent? Is it storm that big to where it's hitting us without the storm even really started? So it was crazy.
It was crazy. Because even I remember Pop, before the storm had started, Pop, he couldn't get up to the street with his car. He left his car, I think, on the main street.
Right.
And had to walk up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We so even if we decided, because at one point we were saying, should we leave and go to a hotel?
Right, I remember that.
We thought about it, and we said, should we? But by the time we could decide anything, nobody can get off the block.
Couldn't.
And this was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And the storm hadn't even started yet.
Not a raindrop or
nothing. The wind didn't pick up. But I mean, so I don't know what was going on. I don't know what happened. But, Superstorm Sandy hit us hard.
It was hard.
Hard. I mean, it was, our street is pretty long. And it was a tree. I guess in front of almost every house, there was a tree down. So I think we actually, after the storm hit and we went outside the next day, and we looked, it looked like a war zone.
I think it was about maybe 12 trees that had fell on our street.
I think it was more. I think it was like 25.
Oh, 25.
From one end to the other, it was about 25 trees that were down. Because, the whole street.
It was crazy.
And like I said, our street is long, and it was trees and lime going across the street, lime the whole street all the way down.
Whole street up.
And no one could get in, no one could get off.
Nope.
Driving wise, you can walk, but driving wise, we couldn't get off. And the men, listen, kudos to my men. Kudos to the men. because the men on the street, I guess there's a lot of construction men that live on the block.
Carpenters and whatnot.
Carpenters, because they went and got their saws. They didn't wait.
And they was cutting
for,
through.
Help, because we were stuck.
Yeah.
And, God forbid, if anybody had got sick,
better been trouble.
Ambulance wouldn't have been able to get in.
I
mean, it was really bad.
Yeah.
And the men, they got whoever had saws and electrics or whatever.
Yep.
They went in the house and they all worked and they cut a path, in the tree. They cut a path so that we can get in and out. I mean, they worked like all day, so we made sure, we got them something to drink, something to eat. I mean, it was crazy. Like all
insane.
day long, it took them to cut through all those trees to make a path.
Yeah.
It was something else.
Yeah.
Storms. Ooh, wow.
Sandy was crazy.
Sandy was crazy.
Jeez.
The worst storm I've ever lived.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Shoot.